Ladies and gentlemen, well, God bless you. It's a joy to come into your homes, into your hearts, and into your lives. I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. I believe and declare that something good is going to happen in your life. You didn't tune in by accident. You didn't click this by mistake. I believe this is a divine appointment. And if you lean in with expectation, God is going to speak something tailor-made just for you. Let me ask you this. What if the only thing standing between you and the breakthrough you've been praying for is a thought? Not a giant problem, not a major failure, just one stubborn, limiting thought that you've been holding on to for too long. See, sometimes it's not what we're doing wrong that holds us back, it's what we're thinking wrong. That one thought like, it's never going to happen for me. I've made too many mistakes. I don't have what it takes. That thought may sound harmless. It may even sound logical. But it's delaying your breakthrough. The scripture says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Your life moves in the direction of your dominant thought. If you're thinking defeat, you're going to live in defeat. If you're thinking, I'll never get well, then sickness is going to hang around longer than it needs to. If you're thinking, this is too big, too hard, too far gone, you're giving power to the delay. But the good news is, you can change that thought. You can evict it today and replace it with truth. Start thinking, God is for me. Something good is coming. My best days are still in front of me. Don't let a temporary delay become a permanent mindset. You may not see the breakthrough yet. The door may still be closed. But that doesn't mean God isn't working. He's behind the scenes, setting things in motion. He's aligning people, shifting circumstances, preparing the path. But He needs your agreement. He needs your faith, not your fear. He needs your hope, not your hesitation. So I challenge you today. Identify the one thought that's been holding you back and let it go. Don't water it. Don't entertain it. Don't justify it. Replace it with faith. Replace it with boldness. Replace it with the promises of God. Because this one shift in your thinking might be the key that unlocks everything. Your healing, your promotion, your peace, your breakthrough. God's ready. Heaven is ready. The question is, are you ready to think different? To step into that new mindset and watch how the breakthrough comes. What you think about the most eventually becomes what you live out the most. Your dominant thought, that recurring belief that plays like a soundtrack in your mind, isn't just something you carry around quietly. It is actively shaping your decisions, your emotions, your relationships, and the way you approach every opportunity that comes your way. Whether you realize it or not, your life is moving in the direction of your most consistent thought patterns. If you consistently think you're not good enough, that thought will leak into how you carry yourself. It will affect how you speak, how you show up in rooms, how you react to challenges, and how much you allow yourself to dream. You may not say it out loud, but your posture will whisper it. Your prayers will be timid. Your vision will shrink to the size of your self-doubt. The opportunities may come, but you won't even recognize them as possible because that dominant thought told you, this isn't for people like you. On the other hand, when your dominant thought is rooted in truth, when you believe you are loved, chosen, capable, and full of potential, everything starts to shift. The way you wake up in the morning feels different. You carry a quiet confidence, not because everything around you is perfect, but because something inside of you is aligned with faith. That one healthy thought fuels courage, it fuels joy. It gives you the strength to keep showing up even on the hard days. Your breakthrough is not always about changing your entire life overnight. Often it begins with changing the thought that's been driving your life for years. Some people are waiting for God to change their situation, but God is waiting for them to change their thinking. Until your mind shifts, your life stays on pause. God can open doors, but if your mind is still locked in fear, you'll never walk through them. He can send the right people, but if your dominant thought is that people always leave or betray you, you push those people away before they even get close enough to bless you. The verse says, God gave 4 big wings, which is beauty, fertility, life, power, and appetite. And he sets them apart from the labor of you and your boy. You live by the people. Your dominant thought is that people always leave or betray you. You'll push those people away before they even get close enough to bless you. Does this sound familiar? So when God gives his people all the things, he's going to say, eat, 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 eat. Some of us are trapped, not by our past, but by the thought we accepted about it. That mistake disqualified me. That divorce means I'm broken. That failure proves I'm not cut out for this. But none of that is true. Those are thoughts. Painful thoughts, yes, but still just thoughts. And thoughts can be changed. You are not your past. You are not your worst moment. And you are not the label someone else gave you. You are what God says you are. You are who he created you to be. And the only thing standing between that truth and your reality might be the thought you keep feeding. Think of your mind like a garden. Whatever you plant and water will grow. If you plant fear and insecurity, you'll eventually harvest hesitation and regret. But if you plant faith, gratitude, boldness, you'll start to see a harvest of peace, favor, and breakthrough. And sometimes it only takes one small seed, one consistent thought to start that transformation. You don't have to fix everything in your life today. But what if you just started with that one thought? That one narrative that keeps repeating itself. The one that always shows up right before you take a leap of faith. The one that whispers, don't bother, it won't work. What if you told that thought, you don't run my life anymore? What if you replaced it with a new one? God is with me, and if he's for me, nothing can stop me. That one switch in your mindset could shift the direction of your entire year. Your dominant thought isn't just a reflection of how you feel, it's a prophecy about where you're going. Speak life over your mind. Speak truth over your identity. Align your thoughts with what heaven says about you. Because once your thoughts change, your words change. And once your words change, your actions follow. And once your actions shift, the breakthrough that once felt out of reach suddenly becomes your reality. You don't need a miracle to start, just a renewed mind. Let God help you take every thought captive. Replace the lies with truth. Reclaim the mental space where doubt used to live. You're closer to your breakthrough than you think. And it may start with the very next thought you choose to believe. One limiting belief can do more damage than 1,000 enemies. It can quietly sit in the corner of your mind, unnoticed, yet controlling the entire direction of your life. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, but its effects are loud. That one belief you accepted years ago, that you're not qualified, that you're not worthy, that it's too late, that nothing good ever lasts for you, could be the very thing standing between where you are and the favor God wants to pour into your life. God is generous. He's a God of abundance, open doors, and divine appointments. His plans for your life are good. His intention is always to bless, to guide, to lift, to restore. But what happens when he's trying to get something to you and you're blocking it? Not with your actions, not with your circumstances, but with what you believe about yourself. It doesn't take 10 limiting beliefs to stop the flow. It only takes one. One lie held tightly can clog the whole pipeline. You could have all the right skills, the right timing, even the right opportunity. But if deep down you don't believe you're supposed to walk in it, you won't. God can be calling you higher, but if that belief says, I don't belong in that room, you'll find a way to disqualify yourself before anyone else does. Sometimes the issue isn't that God hasn't released the favor. It's that your mind hasn't received it. God's favor is flowing, but it's not flowing through the filter of doubt, shame, and insecurity. When you hold on to a belief that says you're not good enough, you start to reject the very blessings God is sending. You shrink back from opportunities. You stay silent when you're meant to speak up. You hide your gifts when the world needs what you carry. The blessing is there, but your belief becomes the block. That's the danger of a limiting belief. It feels like truth, but it's not. It might have come from something that happened in your childhood. It might have been formed during a time of deep pain or rejection. It might even be something someone you trusted said to you. But just because it was said doesn't mean it was true. And just because you've thought it for years doesn't mean you have to keep thinking it. God's favor is bigger than your failures. His grace is stronger than your doubts. But He won't override your belief system. He won't force favor into a heart that's closed with self-rejection. You have to partner with Him in your mind. You have to be willing to release that one belief that's been blocking what He's trying to do. Some of us are praying for breakthrough, but we're holding on to the very belief that's keeping it from happening. We say we want more, but inside we believe we're not ready. We say we want to be free, but deep down we believe we'll always struggle. We say we want to walk in purpose, but we secretly believe we've missed our chance. That's not just hesitation, that's resistance. And it's not coming from God. It's coming from a thought that needs to be broken. If you can have all the potential in the world, but if one belief tells you it's not for you, that potential stays buried. That's why it's so important to examine what's going on in your mind. What's that belief you've never questioned? What's that thought you always fall back on when things go wrong? That's likely the belief that's been blocking the flow. But here's the good news. One shift in belief can open the floodgates. One decision to say, I'm not thinking like that anymore, can unlock the favor that's been waiting to pour into your life. God isn't asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be willing to release what you've believed, willing to trust that He sees something in you that you may not yet see in yourself. When you start to believe what God believes about you, the block gets removed. The doubt loses its grip. The shame loses its voice. And suddenly, doors start opening. Strength rises. Peace returns. And favor starts flowing again. Not because God just started blessing you, but because your mind finally stopped resisting it. So don't underestimate that one belief. Don't tolerate it just because it feels familiar. Ask yourself, is this helping me walk in what God has for me, or is it keeping me stuck? If it's keeping you stuck, it's time to let it go. Because the flow of favor is already moving. And as soon as your belief lines up with His truth, you'll be ready to receive everything that's been waiting for you. Some of the most dangerous forms of doubt don't come wrapped in fear or anxiety. They come dressed up as logic, reason, and practicality. They sound wise. They sound mature. They sound responsible. But at the root, they are still doubt. Just because something feels sensible doesn't mean it's from God. Just because it sounds like good reasoning doesn't mean it's not limiting what faith could be doing in your life. Doubt doesn't always say, I can't. Sometimes it says, let's be realistic. Sometimes it says, well, that doesn't make sense financially. Or that's not a practical move right now. Or even, what if it doesn't work out? And we accept those statements because they seem safe. They seem grounded. But in reality, they're keeping us grounded in the wrong place. Grounded in hesitation instead of launched into purpose. You see, logic has its place. God gave us a mind. He gave us wisdom, discernment, the ability to plan and reason. But there's a line where healthy planning turns into unhealthy doubting. There's a moment where your mind can talk you out of what your spirit knows is right. That's the battle many people lose, not because they were overwhelmed with fear, but because they talked themselves out of obedience under the banner of logic. Think about how many people missed a move of God in their life because the numbers didn't add up, because it didn't fit the timeline, because it didn't seem to fit into the framework they had set for their lives. They weren't running from God. They just didn't trust that His way would make sense. But faith was never meant to make sense. That's why it's called faith. Sometimes God asks you to step when the path isn't visible. Sometimes He tells you to give when you're trying to save. Sometimes he opens a door that doesn't look like a promotion, but leads to one. And if you're stuck trying to make every move make sense, you'll miss what only faith can reveal. Doubt that's dressed up as logic is still saying, God, I don't fully trust you unless I understand everything first. But faith says, God, I don't have to understand it. I just have to trust you. That's the difference between staying stuck and stepping into breakthrough. Think about Peter. When Jesus called him to step out of the boat and walk on water, logic would have said, that's impossible. People don't walk on water. Reason would have kept him in the boat. Practical thinking would have said, wait until the storm calms down, then we'll talk. But Peter stepped out, and as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. It was only when doubt crept in that he began to sink. Your boat might be comfort, it might be control, it might be your plan. And God is saying, come out of that place. Walk with me in a way that doesn't make sense. But if you let doubt disguised as logic speak louder than the voice of God, you'll stay in the boat. You'll stay in the job that feels safe but drains your spirit. You'll stay in the cycle that's familiar but has no fruit. You'll stay where you are, convincing yourself it's wisdom when really it's fear in a mask. God isn't asking you to throw out wisdom. He's just asking you not to elevate it above obedience. He's not calling you to be reckless, but he is calling you to be bold. And boldness means that sometimes you'll move even when the numbers don't add up. Sometimes you'll go when the timing isn't perfect. Sometimes you'll say yes when everything in you wants to wait for one more sign. That's not recklessness. That's just. So take a moment and ask yourself, what have I labeled as logical that might actually be doubt? Where have you been stalling under the guise of being responsible? Where have you convinced yourself to play small because it just makes more sense? God doesn't need your life to make sense. He needs your heart to say yes. The truth is, what looks logical to you might be limiting to God. What feels like caution might actually be a cover for unbelief. And what seems like a smart plan might be keeping you from a supernatural one. Let God stretch your faith. Let him take you past what makes sense and into what makes miracles. Because the life he's calling you to won't always feel safe. It won't always come with all the answers up front. But it will be filled with purpose. It will be filled with growth. And if you can silence the logic long enough to hear his leading, you'll find yourself walking on water too. Fear of failure doesn't always come with flashing lights and loud alarms. Sometimes it shows up quietly, like hesitation, like procrastination, like perfectionism. It's not that you don't have dreams. It's not that you don't believe God can do it. It's just that the fear of what might go wrong keeps you from ever fully starting. And that's the trap, a mental prison that convinces you it's safer not to try than to risk falling short. This kind of fear is subtle but powerful. It doesn't lock your hands, but it locks your mind. It doesn't chain your feet, but it keeps you standing still. You go over every possibility in your head. You rehearse every potential outcome. You calculate every way it could collapse before it even begins. So instead of building the vision, you build excuses. Instead of stepping out in faith, you step back into overthinking. And before long, you're not living, you're waiting. Waiting for a perfect moment. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting to be sure it won't fail. But here's the truth. There is no perfect moment. There is no flawless plan. There is no guarantee that every step will go the way you hoped, and that's okay. Because God never promised perfection. He promised his presence. He didn't say you wouldn't fall. He said he would lift you up. He didn't say you wouldn't face setbacks. He said he would turn all things for your good. The danger of fearing failure is that it keeps you bound to the illusion of safety. You think you're avoiding pain, but you're actually avoiding growth. You think you're playing it smart, but you're playing it small. You think you're protecting your future, but really you're postponing your purpose. All because that voice inside your head keeps whispering, what if it doesn't work? But what if it does? What if the very thing you're scared to try is the key to the life you've been praying for? You can't have progress without rest. You can't walk on water if you're not willing to step out of the boat. You can't discover new strength if you never face resistance. And you certainly can't succeed if you never start. So many people bury their gifts, not because they're lazy, but because they're afraid. They fear being seen trying and not making it. They fear being judged. They fear the disappointment of failure more than the discomfort of regret. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, am I going to let fear lead my life? Or am I going to let faith take over? Every great story in Scripture is filled with people who faced the possibility of failure but moved anyway. Moses could have let his fear of speech stop him from confronting Pharaoh. David could have let the fear of being too small stop him from facing Goliath. Esther could have let the fear of rejection stop her from approaching the king, but they didn't. And because they chose courage over comfort, they stepped into something greater than themselves. It's not that they weren't afraid, it's that they didn't let fear win. And that's your invitation too. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to refuse to be ruled by fear. The prison door is open. You don't need another confirmation, another sign, another delay. You just need to walk out. Shake off the need to have it all figured out. Release the idea that success means getting it perfect the first time. And embrace the reality that every misstep, every fall, every failed attempt is still moving you forward. Because even failure teaches. Even failure grows you. Even failure refines your vision. And in God's hands, failure is never final. He can use it. He can redeem it. He can build something beautiful from what you thought was broken. But He can't bless what you won't begin. So today, break the cycle. Break the thought that says you're not ready. Break the fear that tells you to wait. Start, try, move, write the book, launch the idea, take the class, have the conversation, apply for the position, pray the bold prayer. Not because you're certain of success, but because you're no longer afraid of what happens if you fail. The prison of fear only works if you stay inside. But the key is in your hand. Faith is calling you out. And on the other side of that fear, there's freedom, there's growth, there's breakthrough. And it's been waiting on you to make the first move. Faith is not just a belief you carry in your heart. It's not just the prayers you offer or the promises you declare. Faith is not truly faith until it moves you to action. You can talk all day about what you believe, but it's not until you act on that belief that you show the world and yourself what you truly trust. Action is the outward expression of the faith that is working inside you. If you say you believe something, but your actions are not aligned with that belief, your faith remains dormant. It's in the doing that faith is activated, nurtured, and brought to life. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed, you don't just believe that the seed will grow. You take the steps to ensure it has everything it needs to flourish. You water it. You make sure it gets sunlight. You give it time and attention. You don't just wait for the seed to magically grow on its own. You work in partnership with nature to bring that seed into fruition. In the same way, faith is a seed. But without action, it will remain a seed. It's in the work, the effort, the steps you take that you cultivate your faith and make it a living, breathing part of your life. The Bible says that faith without works is dead. This isn't just a religious principle, it's a universal truth. If you believe you can achieve something, but you don't take any action towards it, you're not truly exercising faith. Faith is not passive. It doesn't just sit around and wait for circumstances to change. Faith is bold. It moves forward even when the way isn't clear. It takes risk when everything in you wants to play it safe. Faith refuses to stay stuck in the safety of the comfortable and chooses to step into the unknown, trusting that God will meet you there. Think about the example of Abraham. God told him to leave his home, to go to a place He would show him, but He didn't give him the full picture. He didn't lay out a detailed map or timeline. Abraham had to act on faith, stepping into the unknown without knowing what was ahead. He didn't just wait for the promises of God to fall into his lap. He took action. And because of that, he became the father of nations. Similarly, when you take action, you're putting your trust in God's ability to guide and provide for you. You're saying, I trust that even if I don't see the full picture right now, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to do my part, and I believe God will do his. The beautiful thing about action is that it keeps you moving forward. Even when you face setbacks or challenges, action gives you momentum. It's in the doing that God can guide you, shape you, and work in your life. But it's not always easy to act on faith, is it? Sometimes the road ahead looks unclear and the obstacles seem insurmountable. Sometimes fear creeps in, telling you that you're not ready or that you'll fail. But here's the truth. Action is the antidote to fear. When you take action in faith, you take the power away from fear. You move in spite of it. And when you move, you position yourself to receive the blessing and breakthrough that God has for you. Action doesn't always mean taking giant leaps. Sometimes it's the small steps of obedience that matter most. It's saying yes to an opportunity that feels outside your comfort zone. It's making that phone call when you're nervous about the outcome. It's applying for that job even though you're not sure you have all the qualifications. It's writing that book, starting that business, having that conversation, all the while trusting that God is guiding your steps. Every action you take in faith is a seed that will produce a harvest. Now, there's one thing to remember. Action alone doesn't guarantee success, but action in faith, partnered with God's timing and grace, always leads to growth. You may not see immediate results, but every step you take brings you closer to your breakthrough. Faith doesn't always produce instant results. Sometimes it requires patience and perseverance. But the key is to keep moving, to keep trusting, and to keep acting in faith. Think about the woman with the issue of blood in the Bible. She had been suffering for years, but she didn't just sit back and hope for a miracle. She took action. She pressed through the crowd, determined to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. She acted on her faith that if she could just get close enough, she would be healed. Her faith moved her to action, and that action led to her healing. When you take action in faith, you're not only moving yourself toward the fulfillment of your dreams, you're also activating God's power in your life. You're showing that you believe He will honor your efforts and He will provide what you need. It's in the action that the miracles happen. It's in the action that the breakthrough comes. So ask yourself today, what is God calling me to do that I've been hesitant to act on? Where in my life is my faith waiting to be activated through action? Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Take the step, do the work, act in faith, and watch God meet you every step of the way. So often, we let the mistakes, failures, and disappointments of our past define who we are today. We look back at the choices we made, the things we didn't do, the relationships that didn't work out, and we allow them to cast a shadow over our future. But the truth is, your past is not your future. The things you've been through, the challenges you faced, and the struggles you've overcome do not have to dictate where you are headed. You are not bound by what has happened. You are free to create the life you were always meant to live. We all have a past. We all have things we wish we had done differently or decisions we wish we could take back. But here's the powerful truth. Your past does not have the final say. It doesn't have the power to keep you stuck unless you give it that power. Your history does not define your destiny. Your future is not locked in place by the choices you made or the setbacks you faced. What matters most is what you decide to do today. What you choose to believe about yourself moving forward, and the actions you take from this moment on. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. It's okay to look back and learn from it, but you should never live there. It's time to stop letting yesterday's failures or yesterday's successes dictate what you can accomplish today. You are not a failure because of what happened before, and you are not limited by the things you did. Every day is a new opportunity, a fresh chance to move forward and redefine your future. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Paul. Before he became one of the greatest apostles, he was a persecutor of Christians. He had a past full of mistakes, anger, and hatred. But once he had a personal encounter with God, his life was completely transformed. He didn't allow his past to hold him back from embracing the future that God had for him. He wrote in Philippians 3:13, one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. Paul knew that if he kept dwelling on his past, he would never step into the amazing future that God had planned for him. He chose to let go of his past and move forward in faith. You have the same choice. Your mistakes, your failures, the things that didn't work out, they do not have to define you. You don't have to keep living in the shadows of the past. If God can redeem Paul's life and turn him into one of the greatest leaders of the early church, he can do the same for you. There's nothing in your past that is too big for God to redeem. The key is to stop letting your past keep you from stepping into what God has for you. It's easy to get stuck in the what ifs and the should haves, but every time you do, you give away your power to move forward. You give away your opportunity to change. You give away your chance to create something new. Instead of looking back, start looking forward. Start focusing on the possibilities that lie ahead, not the disappointments that are behind you. Your future is shaped by the choices you make today. If you keep choosing to believe that your past is too big of a burden to overcome, it will hold you back. But if you choose to believe that God has something new and wonderful for you, and if you take the steps to pursue it, you will begin to see a shift. You will begin to move into the future that God has been preparing for you. It's also important to understand that your past doesn't disqualify you from God's promises. Sometimes we feel like we've messed up so much or failed so many times that we've forfeited our chance for a better future. But God is not a God of condemnation. He's a God of grace and second chances. He specializes in turning things around, in taking broken pieces and making something beautiful out of them. One of the most freeing things you can do is forgive yourself. Let go of the guilt, the shame, and the regret that you've been holding on to. The past is over, and it's time to release it. Holding on to it only keeps you anchored to a place of defeat. The moment you forgive yourself and let go, you make space for new opportunities, for new hope, and for the future that God has waiting for you. The truth is, no matter where you've been or what you've done, it's never too late for a fresh start. God's mercies are new every morning. His love for you is not based on your past actions, but on His unconditional grace. So stop letting your past mistakes define who you are or what you can do. You are not the same person you were yesterday. Every day is a chance to move forward, to create something new, and to embrace the future that God has designed just for you. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have to define you. It's time to break free from the chains of yesterday and walk into the freedom of today. Don't let the mistakes or failures of your past keep you from the future you deserve. The best is yet to come. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to remember one powerful truth. The life you've dreamed of, the breakthrough you've been waiting for, the success you've longed to see, it's not as far away as you think. The only thing standing between you and your breakthrough is the way you think, the way you act, and the way you believe. Every thought you allow to dominate your mind has the power to shape your reality. If you can change the way you think, you can change the way you live. Don't let fear or doubt, the mistakes of your past, or the weight of old disappointments hold you back. Your future is not tied to the limitations of your past. You have the power to redefine what's possible. Faith is not a passive wish. It's an active, bold belief that moves you to take action. It's in the doing that your faith becomes real. And remember, your actions reveal your true faith. When you move, God moves. When you act, you open the door for divine opportunities. But none of this happens without courage. Courage to leave behind the old stories, the old fears, the old mistakes. Courage to step into the new. Courage to believe that your breakthrough is already on its way, even if you can't see it yet. You are not stuck, and you are not limited. The path ahead is filled with possibility, and the only thing you need to do is begin walking in faith. So today, I encourage you, don't let your past hold you back. Don't let the mistakes or fears of yesterday define your tomorrow. Step forward, take action, and know that your future is in your hands. You are destined for greatness, and your breakthrough is closer than you think. Keep pressing on, keep believing, and know that nothing is impossible for you. Your moment is now. Your future starts today.